We about to roll. Is it setting up the meeting? All right, looks like we are officially live. So we're ready to roll here. Dmack, how's it going?
It's going good, man. Another day.
So good to have you as always here at the Hawks Nest. This is a surprise show, folks, not on the books. We were going to just kind of do these kind of things here and there to pop up. Me on his channel, him on my channel here during the week, give you guys a little bit more content as you guys have asked for. And so we want to do with these kind of shows is just kind of maybe keep it a little more general NFL talk. We'll hit your hot questions up if you guys come on into the chat, but we just have some items we were going to run through. These are going to be quick little in and outers. But I guess just NFL, let you lead this off, T-Mac. What are kind of your opening thoughts on this NFL Sunday and what you saw around the NFL and maybe how it affects the Hawks a little bit, maybe not? You know,
what I saw this weekend was pretty interesting. Like I think the Bills are quite not there to contend for a title, which is kind of like, it sucks because Brady left and everything, and you think the Bills is their time and stuff like that, but they're just like a player or two away from being a solidified contender every year. And it just kind of sucks because you know how I like Josh Allen as a QB.
D-Mac's definitely got a man crush on Allen. That's for sure.
I like the underdogs, and I like guys that are slept on. I like guys that, like I said, aren't the guys that are at the top of the draft that everybody's talking about to succeed in the NFL. So I kind of like those success stories. That's why I kind of like DK Metcalf so much too.
The underdogs.
I like the underdog. I don't know. It's just something about it.
So what, and I might cut you off here. Hey, Azo's Derek, Dr. Ghost, what's up, user Hitstick? I will be responding to you guys in the chat. We're going to just kind of go through some of our opening thoughts we want to get on this. Sorry to interrupt you, D-Mac. But
that's okay.
I just want to, people are already up in this chat, man. They're already there. They're already there. So,
so we'll jump in and out of answering questions and things like that. But yeah, I mean, just my general take this weekend was, a disappointing Bills game.
Is this a point where you think with the Bills that this is them being exposed? I mean, a lot of people love to say this word in this week. Week 6 was the week of that team got exposed. The Rams got exposed. Do you really think that was an exposed type game where?
I think so, because that's back to back losses. So their defense ain't as good as they thought they were. And it looks like the Titans are as good as as everybody's saying. So
that's our first topic. I think that's a great lead in, by the way, D-Mac. Our first topic I want to talk about today was how legitimate are the Titans? I mean, have we undersold on this team? Are they a team that can be there with the Ravens and the Chiefs and maybe even the Steelers here? And that's how I was interested to find out your take on this. I've got my end on it as well, but what do you think?
I think the Tennessee Titans are the real deal, man. When you factor in this beast of a running back, Derrick Henry, and like I said, all you have to have is just a game manager at that point at quarterback. You don't have to have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback at that point. Derrick Henry, if he's going for 200 plus yards a game, you're legitimate.
They've got one problem, and they just lost Taylor Lewan to a torn ACL for the season. That's their very valuable left tackle out there for them. That's a big problem. But when I was looking at their roster, because I was just trying to take a glance at it, because I was like, man, they've got a lot of names on those rosters of guys that still can play. And Craig Fawcett, thank you for the $10 donation. I will be looking to you guys here in the chat, but we're just, for the new people hopping in, we're just going to do some general chat here before we get to the questions. So just hang on in there with the questions. Feel free to chat it up in there, but we will be back in on that. We're just going to kind of go through some of these topics just a little bit. This is stuff we talk about on the stream a lot. But here's just some names as I was going through this list. You mentioned Henry. You've got Brown out there, Clowney, Jeffrey Simmons, Fulton from this last draft, one of the top cornerbacks in the draft, Kenan Byard, who's been a very good free safety for them for years, Vaccaro, who's maybe not the player he was in New Orleans, but certainly is at least usable, Harold Landry, Malcolm Butler. We all know about him, don't we, in Seahawk land? And the roster kind of even goes down further from there to a degree. I think that they've got, is one of those teams top to bottom, one of the more solid rosters in the NFL. It's hard to find places you can kind of expose them at. The running game is the key. And this is the thing with I want to say, Travis, you mentioned Henry. It's the amazing part to me is that the guy who's had high volume of carries for a few years, leads the league in rushing. Statistical data usually shows the very next season, without fail, that guy falls off a cliff. And by a cliff, I mean 1,000-yard season, misses 4 or 5, 6 games. This guy's come out, maintaining the balance, signed the new contract. I mean, I don't have to go and ask anybody but you. You had McCaffrey in fantasy this year. I warned you what was coming, didn't I? I told you, I said, he's going to get beat up because he just had all those carries his last few years, finally got paid. This is what running backs do, man. It's what they do. But he is maintaining it. But he's the key. If they lose that offensive line, he needs them to open those holes so he can get that gaining. He has to have that build-up speed. If you get him in the backfield, he's not going to juke you.
That is correct. He's not elusive and he's not hard to find if you catch him, in the backfield. You're right about that. And let's give the offensive line credit. And that's exactly right. Their offensive line, I think, deserves most of the credit. I mean, once he gets to that second level, he's free to go. I mean, they're doing a really good job at really just getting guys and pushing guys backwards. So, yeah, give that offensive line a lot of credit.
It's a mashing line. It's a line that for years has been committed to the run, going back to DeMarco Murray when he was the starting running back there. They are willing to stay with it. And Tannehill, as a game manager goes, you could do a lot worse than this guy. He's a modern NFL quarterback, a receiver convert coming out of college, or not college, but he at one point, I think, started his college career as a receiver. He's got enough movement, just enough in the modern days, not a statue. And He's got enough arm strength, and he's accurate enough with the ball. When he needs to make the throw, he can make the throw. They feel like a dangerous team. And here's where this comes into it, because you've got the Steelers and you have Kansas City, the Ravens, Tennessee. Is there a team of that pack right now that you see that has separated itself from the rest? The
Steelers.
You think so?
The Steelers are, yeah, man. The Steelers are legit. As long as Big Ben, and I said that, I mean, it's the Steelers live and die. Steelers are kind of like the Seahawks if you really think about it. Like, they, pride themselves on defense, not giving up the big play. Obviously, Steelers defense is a lot better than ours, in my opinion. But their team goes as Ben Roethlisberger's go, and we're the same way with Russell Wilson. And so their quarterback play, if they have Big Ben, they've got an opportunity to go all the way, and we're the same way. And I think in that philosophy, we're kind of like similar as far as two teams.
I can see it. I mean, look at the receivers. You got Claypool, sort of like a poor man's DK Metcalf. You have Juju over there, who's kind of like a Tyler Lockett type, right? Connor's a really good back, but not really like Carson's recognized being a good back, but there's other backs that are always mentioned as the better, more top end backs. And defensively, we're certainly blitzing like they do this year.
Right.
Kind of out of necessity. But okay, so let's go on to the next topic. I think we're both, you got them. I'm still kind of at the end of the day leaning back to Kansas City finding the way. Like when it's all said and done, they're going to hit the engines at the right time. Andy Reid's a lot like Carroll, where his teams do historically start out pretty fast. But I think he's kind of learned how to also manage out those seasons too with those teams that are really good. And he knows he can maybe lose a game or two here, and he'll be just fine through the season. They're a team I think that can win on the road in the playoffs. They can put up enough points to challenge Tennessee to get them out of their running game if they get to the playoffs against them. They're still one that I hold as that just a little bit of cut above. But I'll tell you, both with the Steelers and the Tennessee, their bullets are pointing up. They're on
those last two games for Kansas City Chiefs were pretty bad in my opinion. Even though they won this weekend, I still think they played pretty bad to their standards. I think they played bad.
Do you think they're sort of just in the cruise control mode where there's not as much?
I think the league is sort of figuring them out and how to defend them, and they're this close to just closing that gap on how great they are in this league. And like I said, you give guys a little bit of time and these defensive coordinators time. Just look how the Raiders handle them. I mean, that was the picture perfect way to handle Kansas City Chiefs, and a lot of people are breaking down that film right now and figuring out how they can do the same thing to Kansas City. So there is a recipe out there. And I think Kansas City, they're not as good as last year. And I think the league is also, caught up to what they're doing.
I could see it. I want a little more data, but I can definitely get on board with saying potentially Steelers and even Tennessee are a better team. Maybe even Baltimore sneaks up in there, but I still wonder until Lamar Jackson shows in the playoffs, I'm going to be on in that spot if I don't know.
Well, Kansas City's defense to me is the glaring thing that you look at it, and they're not scary on defense at all. I just don't feel like their defense is top tier, and that's where I think the difference is. The offense is going to be high powered. They're going to score the football. I mean, that's just what they're going to do. But to me, their defense can be taken advantage of, as you saw Oakland Raiders. And Oakland Raiders are kind of built from a DNA standpoint exactly like the Kansas City Chiefs. You got the quick guy, Tyreek Hill, Henry Ruggs. They're very similar. You got Waller, you got, you know, the Kelsey. They're very, very similar how they're built. And so, like I said, if you've got the personnel to beat them, I think you can.
What do you think about the Le'Veon Bell addition to Kansas City? Is that going to do anything to help their offense?
I
Or is
think it
just going
hurts.
to be?
I think it hurts Kansas City. I think I think it hurts him more than anything adding him at this point of the season, because now you got a young rookie that's doing pretty good, and he's wondering, you know, what's his role going to be in the offense and all these question marks. And, you know, I think it's more of a distraction than helping them move forward. So I don't know. We'll see.
I have to be a little bit pessimistic on that one too. With Hilaire's running outstanding, really probably the best running back as a rookie right now in the NFL by far. And why you want to go from something that's working there. I know why they signed him. It's probably just cheap signing and they like his upside, but you have to wonder if he's going to be, I don't know. We'll see on that move. I don't know what Le'Veon has left. He took that year off of football and he's not been a very good running back coming back now. The Jets haven't got the greatest of offensive lines, haven't had the greatest of teams, but I don't know about that one. I don't think that really moves the needle in that respect. So the next topic we're going to get onto, and again, these are just for you folks in the chat. If you're new in here, we're just doing these kind of little shows. We're going to get to the chat. We just had a couple topics we want to talk about that are more NFL general stuff. We'll get into Seattle and a few things that are kind of there, but we just want to touch. These are some things we just wanted to kind of touch on a little bit. My question after this yesterday, because the Cowboys had one job, Dmack. Cowboys had one job this week. You know what I'm saying? One job. Beat the Arizona Cardinals. That's all you had to do. You're at home. You need this for your season. You got Andy Dalton in there. They came out and they didn't even show up. And there's teams out there you can look at. The 49ers still fighting their butt off against the Rams this last week. They're still trying to win this season. They haven't leaned in the excuse of injuries like they could or the Super Bowl hangover like they could. But when you look at the Cowboys right now, what you see is them as a team that looks really in a malaise, lost. They've changed defensive scheme this offseason. Those players don't seem to know what they're doing. Would you bail on them as a season, or would you hang in there knowing how bad that division is at this point?
I mean, if they were being realistic with themselves and their roster, I would definitely just tank and just tuck it in. You know, obviously, you know, they're saying that they're going to stand behind Dak Prescott and his injury. And if they're, you know, expecting to do right by him, you pick up him at next year, and then you pick up a nice piece next year out of a rookie, and you see what you can put together. But right now, I think you just tuck your season in at this point. I mean, even if you make the playoffs, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? And so that's the thing. If they're real with themselves, they would do that. But, you know, like I said, I don't think Jerry Jones and his pride will let him, you know, do that.
No, I mean, and he's messed as he's done since he let Jimmy Johnson go a couple of decades ago. He's messed the situation up currently, and it's messed up right now as well. Your offensive line's kind of in shambles from what it was before. Tyron Smith looks done. You already lost Frederick this last year. I'm sure Zach Martin's clock has begun to tick. Lyle Collins on the IR for the full season. You can look at their offensive firepower and say, well, they've got the firepower, they can get the playoffs. But for your reason you pointed to, even if they get into the playoffs in this NFC, who are they really beating? And I, at this point, that performance, I don't see anybody. I'm with you. I'm bailing on them. After this week, let's get around a little bit of Hawk stuff here, and we'll go back around. Because this is a week-to-week question, who right now is the biggest threat to the Seahawks, the NFC, from your perspective? Because, again, that exposed thing, everybody goes, okay, the Packers got exposed this last week. Again, I don't know if I agree with these things, but this is some of the things you're hearing out there.
I mean, at this point, I mean, you got Seattle at 5-0, you got Cardinals at 4-2, Rams at 4-2, and the Niners 3-3. At this point, I don't think the Cardinals, this is what I, you know, said last week, I don't think the Cardinals are a threat to us because it's all about matchups. The Cardinals are a great matchup for us. They don't run the ball with any kind of physicality. They, you know, Drake he's only going to run if he sees a glaring hole. I mean, he's not making any moves, right? So yeah. I mean, they're not going to beat you with the run. And then, you know, Seattle loves to just force you in the one dimension to just throw the ball. And I don't think Kyler Murray's at the point where he can dissect us to win a game and outshoot Russell Wilson at this point. So I think in our division, the Rams have a better, when you talk about matchup and scheme, I think Rams give us a better game than Arizona. So I say that's our competition is the Rams.
I agree. On the division side of it, I think it's, even though I don't think they showed up this last week, I think you shouldn't take that as an indicator that they've been exposed. You should look at it as they had an off week. We're going to have an off week at some point. We're going to go, well, we knew this was going to come along at some point where we didn't show up. We've shown up for every game. We've tried for every game. These guys have been into it. Sometimes your team shows up over the course of a 16-game season, and there's a few poo games out there. It happens to pretty much every single team in the NFL. They had their poo game this last week against the 49ers, while the 49ers were like the little animal that you've got in the corner that's been trapped, and it's got just a little couple tiny claws left, and it's just flailing at you with those tiny claws. That's where they were in their mindset this last Sunday. So I still think I agree. The Rams. What do you think on NFC? Do you have, we got Buccaneers, we got New Orleans, we've got the Packers, and maybe if you want to include the Bears, I'd love to know you think the Bears, with their, you being a defensive guy, with their defensive heavy scheme, have our threat.
I am, but I've watched Chicago, and I don't see that same intensity from years, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. I don't think the Bears are any better than they were a year or two ago. And so I would say the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, to me, have the best linebacking core. They have the best front four. They've got, a secondary that's really, really good.
Winfield.
Rookie. Winfield, let's not even go there. Winfield is my guy. And so I think their defense carries that team. And, a lot of people, they want to look at Brady as the, marquee name and everything, but it's that defense that's carrying that team to a lot of their wins. They're getting pressured. They're fundamentally sound. And as you saw, they cleaned up the turnovers. That was the biggest thing. They cleaned up the turnovers, 0 turnovers last game. Who's going to beat them with 0 turnovers when you got Tom Brady that's going to protect the ball and just get it out and get the ball where it needs to be. So, with that combination, I think they have the best shot.
Well, and that's kind of what I think as well. Tampa Bay, to me, I think the Packers are dangerous if you have to play them on the road. That's where they get a little bit worrisome there. But that's my main issue with the Packers. Is if you can get them out of Lambeau, you're in a lot better of a state and situation to deal with them. They still are a big threat to us, I think, because their schedule's easy and they have a road to get to the first round bye, which makes them the worrisome team for me. But I think Tampa Bay at the end of the day over New Orleans. I don't trust Drew Brees' arm, and that front seven is good. They did lose Vita Vea as well. We have to acknowledge that the Buccaneers, they tried to actually steal from us Snacks Harrison. I'm sure you guys have heard the reports on this, but Snacks Harrison's been on our practice squad, and there's 2 teams that have tried to pluck him from the practice squad because he's been left unprotected. When a player's left unprotected, any team can grab them, but then that player has to agree to then be taken by that team. So Snacks got grabbed up by Tampa Bay and said, "Hey, come over here, get off this practice squad." He said, "I'm over here training." He said, "Get off me. I'm in Seattle." And so did Miami, by the way, 2 random teams that tried to do that. But I hold it there. I think with Tampa Bay, they've made the threat. The thing with Tom is that I don't know if he's got that arm anymore on some of those routes that he has to have over the course of a game. It's a lot of a luck out thing where on those out routes, as we get into deep November, deep December, January football games, is he going to be able to put the amount of arm strength on those balls, on those short routes to the out routes? But he loves those, where he comes up, the guy's running the option route, he feels the defender. If the guy's on the inside, then you go out. If the guy's on the outside, the guy goes in off the route, and both player and the receiver on one page. That's how he's been so good with Edelman and Welker and all those guys. But if he's got to throw that out route, which he's got to throw about probably 5, 6, 7, 8 times a game with his limited arm strength, and you can pick it off because you got a guy who can jump a route. That's the thing that could end up in that New Orleans game. It got him, right? Remember the New Orleans game? That's what they were doing, is he was throwing those outs and the guy's getting right up under the route and taking it for the pick, because then it's a pick 6. That's the other thing about those, right? Out routes go for pick 6s when they're on those short routes. There's nobody else to tackle on the back end. The quarterback ain't catching up to the guy. So it's a free run. All right. Let's address a little bit more. I'm going to just talk a little bit with the chat here because it's blowing up. Okay. Again, I want to thank Craig Fawcett for the $10 donation. We salute you, Craig. And as you guys, we're going to get in the description section here. I'll get to Dmack's channel, Dmack Talks Seahawks. So please do go over there and subscribe to his channel. We will, I meant to have it here in the description section. We got to get that in there. You can maybe put that in the chat, Dmack, if you get a chance. Just a link to the channel. But Juicy, welcome on in. Dr. Ghost, I saw you the question there. We'll get to that. User Hitstick. Michael Simon, how you doing? I'm just going to kind of barrel through here real quick on a few of these. Derek, the Seahawks fan, Kyler Murray played horrible last night. Did he play horrible? He looked like he was giving them some problems. Maybe not perfect.
Well, it was just a slow start. It was a slow start. He had a little bit of jitters. He was, he's a hometown kid from Texas, and he probably had a lot of, friends and stuff like that. It was a slow start. He had to get, settled in. And once he settled in, he started making the throws that he had to make.
I'm still in. I'm on the Kyler train here. I still think last year he impressed me. He's not been perfect this year. He's had some struggles. That's going to happen. Sophomore slam type stuff is real as coaches have film on you and they can react to you. This is what you get in your second year. At the same time, he's got a good deep arm. He's accurate and he's really using his movement skills. He's almost sub Lamar Jackson right now and how he's running the ball around there, which almost makes it at times impossible to defend the guy because he's 4'3". This guy's a 4'3" guy. I mean, he is legitimately in that area. Now, he's not big. You get your hand on him, you can pull him down with one finger, right? But you got to get your hands on him. It's like that chicken in the, Rocky film where he's running around trying to pick him up. Clara Bell, what's up? Clara from New York. We got to run into some problems with division. We're going to run into some problems with the division with the Cardinals, she says. We can't contain Kyler. We need more help on our defensive back end. Ooh, back end. Well, other than Jamal Adams, I guess is what the question I asked you on that, Clara, because, Jamal comes back in. You're pretty solidified there. I don't know. Have you seen anybody you could see in the NFL right now available in a trade in the corner or safety market? Obviously, Earl's lingering out there, but anybody on any team that's a loser team that you like as a player, generally speaking?
No, not right now. And I do not like the Earl idea. Like nobody likes the Earl idea.
No, I know. I think about 95% of my subs on the chat were thumbs down on Earl. So it seems almost a consensus. Boy, Earl, you talk about just falling off a cliff from a reputation standpoint. Oh my goodness. Poor Earl. D-Boy, what's up? How you doing?
What's up, man?
How you doing? Dr. Ghost, our defense needs to go to a tackling school for sure. Well, some of this is tackling is going to be a problem league-wide. You don't have any training camp, no off-season camps, no preseason football games. It's very hard to tackle when you're not ever allowed to tackle. And already in the CBA, they're not allowed to hit up very often. They're not allowed to have their pads on very often. It's just going to be an issue. You can do as much as you can about it. That's why you want gang tackling, though, right, Dmack? That's why you want rally to the football. That's why you don't want to just rely on, I see my guys on the ball. Yeah. Because it's
something that Dallas doesn't know how to show.
And D-Mac sent me this play. I'm sure you guys have seen it where who is it that caught the ball? DeAndre Hopkins catches a crosser in that game and then starts up the field. And Jalen Smith, who you and I have talked about, is a guy that we really feels like one of the more overrated players in the league to get that contract like he did. He's seems 2 yards away, but all he's got to do is swivel his hips and then get over there and make the tackle, and he's not even close. Doesn't even lay a hand on Hopkins, who's not exactly 4'4" guy himself, by the way. But geez, yeah, it's
brutal to watch. He's chasing down a route. He's chasing down a route to get to the flats, and then he sees that DeAndre Hopkins is running the ball, and so he can't even flip his hips to even start to in motion to go chase after him. And he's like kind of like right next to him. Like if he flip his hips and turns, he probably shout and just. But he can't even do it. It's just brutal to just see. It's just like, oh man,
he's got the straight line speed, but the side to side, it's just not there with him. That injury that he got back at Notre Dame, it's carried over a little bit. It seems like. Emmett's got a question for you. Can you hear me, D-Mac?
Yep.
So Emmett says, D, what do you see as the issue for Trey Flowers? I'm a big fan and hope he can get back on track. Is it just a matter of confidence with him?
Well, I think they're trolling us a little bit because they said later in the chat they were trolling us because they know how fired up you get about Trey Flowers.
So, I'm not a guy that's going to be in sunk cost. If I made my prediction, I'm wrong on that prediction. I will own it, and I've seen enough out of Trey Flowers to know now that he's doesn't appear to be able to take the step. I've thought a little bit about it being confidence, but I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem like the light bulb's gonna come on there in the way I thought it was. I mean, the guy had 3 interceptions last year. He played really solid, at least early on in the season, and about 3/4 of the way through the season. There was a reason to think he could go forward, but it
happens. Like I said, guys, they show a little promise and things like that. I wasn't high on Flowers either, and I know me and Brandon talked about it a lot. I wasn't too high on Flowers, and like I said, I hope for the best, but it is what it is. So Trey Flowers, he's because I think we even said something about should they get rid of Trey Flowers and go with like a rookie or something like that and to replace him. And I was like, I would go with the rookie or something like that.
I had people tried to tell me on Sunday. Somebody was asking me about putting Neal over there and taking him off the field for Neal if Dunbar's not healthy. And I thought that was going extreme. I thought Neal would be a lot worse over there at safety than Flower. I think here's the thing. I don't think you cut the guy. He's a cheap for the next 2 years. And he's a backup guy who knows your system really well. Maybe he's not an average player, but it's good to have some depth at corner. Certainly need to upgrade the top front line guy here at some point or another, but I'm not going to be in a position of saying, like I'll keep him on the team. It's a couple $100,000 it's costing us. So, Michael Simon says the Cardinals ran over the Dallas yesterday. He's essentially asking, is it more that we should be afraid of the Cardinals there, or more that Dallas is bailing on their own season and those players have kind of checked out?
I don't think we have to worry about the Cardinals. That's going to be my sentiment all year. It's never going to change. And like I said, I think
there too.
Yeah, Dallas should definitely tuck it in.
Yeah, I just thought it looked like a team that was defeated and done. That's the way they looked to me. Like the Dak Prescott injury caught up to them over the week. They got through that Giants game, and then they just kind of like the emotional hit of that kind of resonated. And I think that they just realized we're not going to get this done with Dalton. They probably practiced with them all week, and they're like, dear God, this is not going to work. Zoe says, I hear there's a rumor we can trade for Dunlap. What are your thoughts on that, and what will we have to give up? So now I've got a Cincinnati Bengal fan here in my on the stream. So I'm going to ask you first. What's your
Dunlap he's not in his prime. I mean, he's down. I mean, he's an upgrade for sure, but I don't know. That could be something because, like I said, the Bengals should be trying to get rid of guys and get as many assets as they can. So on their end, it makes sense for them. I don't know if it makes necessarily sense for us, to be honest. I mean, is he going to come in and give us 5-6 sacks for the rest of the year? I have not. I don't know. I don't know how much he's got left in his tank. So
same way. It's you put him in the Ryan Kerrigan mold. You put him in. There's about a half a dozen guys right now that are floating around in the rumorville that really aren't necessarily going to give you the upgrade that you think you're getting here. That's at the end of the day. That's what we're trying to do in this trade. And if we can't really guarantee that it's going to help, really for sure, but just give us a Modochrome, that's really not enough to move the needle at this point.
Exactly. For them, it makes sense. For us, I don't think so.
So Irina says, I think Adams comes back this week as well as Damon Snacks Harrison. I really hope we can control Hopkins and Kyler. Well, I think Hopkins is going to give us some problems this week. Like, that's going to happen. You're going to have to, if I was to say write down a game where Hopkins is going to put 12 and 135 up on the board, this is going to be one of those ones. Dmack, you remember the Texans game from a couple of years ago at home with Seattle when Hopkins was here, Jadeveon Clowney was chasing Russell Wilson all over the backfield for the whole game, but Hopkins just went off. I think he had almost 200 yards. And the big problem, and I want your kind of thought on this, because as a cornerback with our scheme, he is the ultimate receiver to attack our scheme. His skill set and the way that he runs the intermediate routes, not short bubble screens where he's a yak guy, but a guy that gets up that 15-yard post, that 15-yard out route, that he's going to get open on those almost at will. And your defense with its cover three and its bail technique is more often than not going to naturally already open itself up to that type of player having success with those routes. Add into it's a player like Hopkins, who's absolutely one of the best in the league at those routes, and it becomes devastating for your defense in a lot of respects.
Right. So I think the only thing that we have to do, we got to put Kyler in some situations down and distance wise where he's, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14. We got to get some pressure on him and get some stops on these guys to get them in those pressure down and distance to where we can get off the field. Because Kyler, with his feet, that's the only thing that worries me about playing Arizona is with his feet. If he can get out and, create time and space for, his wide receivers to get open, I think that's where he gives us problems. Because, our DBs can't cover for more than what, you know what I mean? Like, they can't cover forever. So it's just, to me, his elusiveness and his able to escape the pocket and create plays, that's the only thing that scares me. But I still think, Kyler versus us, I think I go Wilson over that shootout, because it is going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a high scoring game.
For some reason or another, this is a game that it might be the first one of the year I've predicted so far that's like this. I've got us going over, 10-point win in this one. I don't know why I've got the confidence like that going into it. Maybe it's just the Chandler Jones loss for the Cardinals and being such a record against us.
Yeah, Russell's going to be able to do whatever he wants with this team not having that pass rush. And one thing, Buda Baker looked good. Like,
he does look good.
Really good. Like, I'm like, whoa, this guy.
It's another one of those, dude, where it really hits you in the nads, because when he's coming out in the draft, you've seen a lot of film on him because he's a local kid out of University of Washington. You can see he's a dog. He's a player. Don't worry about his size. Don't worry about what position he's going to play on the football field. Just draft this guy. And Seattle goes and gets really cute with the draft, trades back. And in the trade back, he's still available at the spot in the second round. You're out of the first round. You trade back into the second round. Oh, we're going to get ourselves some. Yes. We've got our strong safety to fit in after Cam, right? We've got our strong safety / slot corner of the future. But then we select Malik McDowell. And the very next pick after it is Budda Baker. Just brutal. just soul crushing, dude, for those type of moves when you watch him do it. Because you're like, what are you guys seeing in this that you're not missing? Your local guys, you got the in-word with Chris Peterson. Like, they had a really good relationship with the former head coach there at University of Washington. They knew about those players intimately, but they didn't go for him. He's a really good player for them. He does scare me. Last year in that second game against us, he literally almost wrecked our whole offensive approach single-handedly. He is a problem in this game. It's just that not in addition to Chandler Jones aspect of things is the thing that gets me just a little bit more feeling okay about this more than I would otherwise, where I probably would be a little more freaked out by it. Let's see. Key for Henry is getting second level. That's absolutely right. It's the key to him getting second level. Let's see where we're going. I'm going to see if I can find some questions in here just real quick. Don't pepper us too much, guys. I want to keep these talk going. Michael Simon says, are we getting Antonio Brown? What do you think, Dmack?
I don't think so. I think he'll be best in Baltimore. That's my prediction. He'll be best in Baltimore.
And you're, of course, pointing a little bit to the connection there between Hollywood Brown, his cousin, who plays wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens.
I think Baltimore actually went out their way to make sure that they didn't miss on another Brown in the draft. So I think he goes to Baltimore Ravens.
And the only thing that has me on the side of thinking that if he comes to Seattle over the Baltimore Ravens is the potential limitations of Lamar Jackson as a passer and how willing and how much the Ravens potentially embrace throwing the ball. Because when we look at Antonio Brown to the team he's got to go right now, we have to consider the fact that it has to be a team where he can get some production very quickly out the gate as he's now into the back end of the schedule here, because he's trying to play for the next contract he gets next year. He doesn't want to sign a 1-year, $4 million deal after this offseason. He wants to get the 3-year, $21 million deal, his final big little slice of the pie that he can grab before he retires, because he lost out all that money on Oakland. He's still got all that going through litigation at this time. So I'm going way down the logic train on this. It's a lot of rationale stuff, and it's certainly I have nothing inside to know that this is the way it is. There was a Josina Anderson report that said that it's just nearly a done deal that he is going to sign with Seattle after week 8. But I think he wants to get on the scene, roll strong. Let's not forget Dmack. He's trained with Geno Smith in the offseason. He's trained multiple times with Russell Wilson in the offseason, this offseason. And he probably has with Lamar Jackson too, by the way. So to your point, I think he's done. I think Antonio was with both of those two parties through the offseason. So they are still in play. They're probably our main competition for him. But it'll be interesting to see how that little prediction plays out.
I'm just saying we're talking logic with an illogical person. So
that is true. Antonio Brown's next move is absolutely a fool's pursuit.
So we never know. I don't know. So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to read the next comment. So Barry said, I agree with D-Mac. Chiefs aren't looking Super Bowl bound. Okay.
I can see where you guys are coming from with it. And it's hard to, as we saw with our Seahawks after they won their Super Bowl, you've got all that talent still, but it's like, it's harder to get back through there to the top. And this is in any sport. It's not as easy as it was to get there the last time. It's a tougher climb. Last year they had, Mahomes with a dislocated kneecap for a lot of the season. They still made it through and got their way. So, we'll see with them. I'm on board with thinking potentially either Tennessee or who you mentioned the Steelers being teams that can come as a dark horse and be more of that team at the end of the year that you're like, yeah, they're the team to beat in the playoffs from that conference. They're the ones. And boy, it'd be kind of nice to do a little bit of a 2005 Steelers-Seahawk rematch, a chance for us to maybe like make the universe right again, right? Yeah, redemption. We had that thing stolen for us. But though I will say, I may do something very drastic if the officials were to take a Super Bowl away from us again, playing the Steelers in the Super Bowl. That might be too much for me to take. Like I would break down. I would lose it. I would absolutely lose it. $20 donation from Randall McDaniel. Thank you so much, Randall, for the $20 donation. I fully salute you, my man. You are always good with the donos, and I do appreciate it.
I know Randall didn't dono $20. What? Hold on.
Randall's always donating $20. He's hitting me like he's always making it rain, man. Every time Randall walks in the chat, I got dollar bills flowing past me.
Let me get a yes sir in the chat.
Yes, sir. Oh, Shervin says Murray was 9 of 24 passing. Yeah, but you look at the score and you look at how they got up, and he was, the way he's running around. The problem here for me is that if Murray's embraced running like Lamar Jackson, that's where he becomes even really more of a threat. If he tries to be what he was a little bit last year, which is at times just staying in that pocket and holding and hanging, that's when I'm okay with how we match up against him. He'll still scramble around, but when he's like going for it and he's not sliding and he's going 20 yards down the field, diving into the end zone sideways and getting corkscrewed, that's when I'm like, oh, okay, he's a threat right now because he's doing the I'm not playing for tomorrow's safe approach. He's playing for the day, and you got a guy going 4-3 with the skills he's got. That's hard. It doesn't matter if he's 9 for 24 at that point. He can still be an effective quarterback. What do you think, Dmack? Do you take anything away from the 9 of 24 passing, Kyler?
No, I like I said, I told you he just had to settle in, man. He just had happy feet. I don't know who was in the stands, if it was his high school sweetheart was in the stands or something. I don't know. But he just had happy feet in the beginning. He settled down. He started hitting his throws, and it was fine. Luckily, they didn't take advantage of him going 3 and out a lot in the beginning.
Yeah, and the thing is, if he's hitting 4 or 5 big plays over the course of a game, he's hitting these 50-yard, 60-yard shots one way or another, then it's again doesn't matter on that type of if he's not being as necessarily pinpoint his accuracy or getting a high completion rate. At the end of the day, it matters how many points you're throwing up on the board.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we do what we do. So Randall says 1/3 of our starting D coming back all levels. Rasheem Green, Snacks Harrison, Brooks. Boy, would I like to have Brooks back for this game. I hope he's there. We need him you talk about a great spy. The one thing Brooks can do on film, Dmack, I'm sure you saw the same thing, that he's got the wheels to stay with that kid if you had him spying for just the problems that we're talking about. I hope his ankle's good enough to come back because he could be a real key in this game to stopping that specific aspect of the Cardinals game. And man, what in your eyes, how well has Cody, I can't remember his name. He's dead to me. Cody Barton. What do you think about how he's playing? I know I'm just going off topic. Your thing there, Randall. You just sent me on a thought here. What do you think where he's at in his development? Because they got him. Okay, last year they had him at Sam. Sam didn't work. He couldn't play off the ball and off tight end. Couldn't set the edge. He was getting pushed back. They've now moved KJ to the Sam linebacker role to flip Cody over to the will. So he should be at his natural college God-given position. Sorry, I interrupted you on that, but.
Oh, no, you're fine. I think he's coming along well. Like I said, he's making the plays that he can, but I think he's still limited. Like I said, he's undersized, so he's just still limited. But I think he's coming along as best as he can.
The thing that drives me just a little nuts with him is that even of the undersized guys, they've got to take it then to the offensive player. They've got to then now be that much more aggressive so that they don't get caught. And he just so often seems to get caught at times where a lineman's coming downfield and he's flat-footed, back-footed, or he's getting pressed out of a pocket and he's on. He did on the play where they stopped the 4th down play. He did a great job taking on the fullback in the hole on that particular play. But so often you see him just, he's not taking it to the defender. There's no punch that he's sliding into the guy. He's just kind of finessing his way around it.
Right. And I consider that just catching guys. Like he just, in a lane and you just catching, linemen, you catching blockers and things like that. You're getting, ear holes with crackbacks and things like that. Like, I don't know. He's doing the best he can. Like I said, he's undersized with amongst a lot of giants in there. So he's doing the best he can.
So you see that also then as a limitation of maybe what his upside could potentially be.
For sure. I think so.
Yeah, I agree. Damn it. So Michael Simon asked Dmack, what in the hell is John Schneider doing? What is he doing?
I'll leave that one up to you. That's your boy, Snyder.
Yeah, he is my boy now. I don't have a good answer for this one either, Michael, especially as far as it concerns the pass rush specifically. I love the Snacks Harrison signing, but we haven't heard a lot of rumors outside of a Carlos Dunlap rumor, which we don't know how much there's teeth to that rumor there even is. We just saw with Nate Irving, a guy who was a really talented pass rusher for the Cowboys for a couple years before he just fell in love with pot so much that he couldn't get through a clean test. And now the pot policy is relaxed. The guy's now back to active. The Raiders just signed him, a fantastic signing by the Raiders, in my opinion. But it makes me wonder why the Seahawks weren't in on that deal. And when I look at the moves from this offseason, there's no Clowney, no Everson Griffin, no Yannick Ngakoue, no anybody that you didn't try to really go out there and do anything past Benson Mayo and Bruce Irvin. And that still does remain the case as we stand today now at week 5, 6, whatever we're in here. I just don't have a good explanation, D. I was actually hoping you might have at least something. I literally can't come up with an understanding of why they look at this pass rush and say it's good enough.
I'm not necessarily thinking that they're saying it like there's good enough. I don't think there's enough talent out there. And I think a lot of these teams are, even the teams that aren't doing good, they're being really, really stingy with, just realizing that, hey, you're not, competing for anything this year. You might as well load off some of your talent and gain some assets. And I just think the league right now is just being really tight. And this has been a kind of, and think about it though, like with the pandemic and stuff, like things have been just like non-traditional all year. Like when it comes to just like, these guys probably don't have a lot of information on these players. It's just a weird year to like have these transactions, occur in this type of situation with the NFL. So I think that played a lot into it as well. So like the communication itself has come to kind of a halt because of this kind of crazy thing that's going on.
That's what it feels like. I reference it as feeling like dead silence when normally Schneider's in on every deal. Normally he like rarely pulls the trigger, but you always hear about them in the assembly of other teams that are in on a particular given player. And now more often than not right now, we're not hearing any of that, of any interest or anything like that. And that's the part that's been peculiar for me with this, that I can't quite wrap my head around.
Yeah, everything's on the hush, man. Everything is just kind of like sealed up as far as information on players. And, they want to know all types of stuff. They want to know injury. They want to know all these things about these players before they go out and acquire a guy. So.
Very Harry Larry, what's on up in the chat? How you doing? Seahawks Breseño. Sounds like Jamal Adams is not coming back this week. Is Pete really conservative with the players? Well, no, I want Dmack, this one too, better. Me with you've probably ran into a few players who ran into this. To me, the groin injury, as long as it's not a tear, and I said this when it first happened, is a 4 to 6 week injury. That's the timeline on a groin pull, right? I mean, there's no real way you're coming back. Just if it's even a little bit twingy in week 4, you're waiting the extra week, because you go out there with the twingy, it's going to potentially pull again. Is that right?
Yeah, you want to, like I said, Jamal Adams, this is the long play with Jamal Adams. It's not about, I mean, if we lose one game, is it the end of the world? I mean, versus losing Jamal Adams for a year, it's just, you want to be very, very, very patient with injury, especially the growing area, because that has a lot to do with him running and things like that. And you don't want him to have anything serious happen to that growing area. And like I said, it's just, I know a lot of people want to see him play. I know people think like, hey, we need him and things like that, but it's not the risk reward. I mean, it's not worth it to play him if he's not 100%.
No, at the end of the day, if we're undefeated right now, and like you said, this is part of the nice thing about having a 1 or 2 game lead in your division at times, is that you get to make these nice decisions with your players to give them that extra week that then pays off down the road, hopefully. And Carroll's shown a good ability to utilize that in the past. I'm with you. Just if it's even a little twingy, we even had 10% twinge in there. Give it another week, let it clear through, let him just sit one more time. I think we can still beat this team without him, and we'll see.
Yeah, we need him for the long run.
Yeah, we absolutely did. Andrew Zavala wants to trade the whole team for Aaron Donald. Even Russell, Andrew. OCC 2.0, what's going on? How you doing, man? Craig Fawcett says Neal is playing so well. No need to rush Adams. Let him heal up, especially so. We got some agreement here in the chat. We agree with you there, Craig, in that there's no reason to push this along, man. Just let this ride out a little bit. Neal is playing pretty darn well. I'm still wondering too, by the way, Dmack, is Carroll's starting to say that he's going to try to get Neal on the football field even after Adams comes back. And this has been a little bit of a peculiar thing, and even people mentioning it to me, because again, it's like people saying, okay, put Neal out at the Trey Flowers outside cornerback role. Well, that's not going to work. And then they go, okay, well, you got now slot corner or linebacker as a sub linebacker at that point. KJ Wright's playing at a Pro Bowl level. Bobby Wagner playing at a Pro Bowl level. Ugo Amadi is actually playing very, very good in the slot. I'd love to know your thoughts on Ugo, but to my eyes, he's been one of the better slot corners we've had here since Justin Coleman was here.
Yeah, I like Ugo. I think what it sounds like, they see a lot. He's apparently making a lot of plays in practice, and the day he's earned his respect in that lineup. And so when you hear that sentiment from coaches, I think it's just more so they just want to have the best talent on the field. They don't even really care, positionless and things like that. Like I said, it's all about matchups too. And so like he's a bigger guy, so they may want to match him over the top of Hopkins next week and just have him just kind of be disruptive, because they know Hopkins, he can make the amazing catches and all these. He's got a wide range of a catch radius and things like that. So they might want to just put a bigger guy on him just to kind of get him out of his comfort zone. So, like, yeah, I mean, they just want to put the best talent on the field, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I can see where they can maybe try to find a sub role, at least for him, or a big tight end, but just thinking you're taking any of these three guys off the football field for him is a hard one. Maybe Bobby, I could see, like we talked about, that goes back to that apex role we saw for Jamal at the start of the season, where you could sub, they're not going to run the ball. You put in a guy like Jamal or a Neal guy, a middle linebacker in a dime package, let's say, or a nickel package. And now you got a little bit more movement, but you haven't necessarily sacrificed all the size, because they can still play if something goes on with a draw or something like that out of a run. That would be an interesting concept to me.
And it's nice that you said that, because the next question is saying from Randall McDaniel, he said, is Ugo our nickel back moving forward?
See, to me, that's a yes at this point. When
I agree.
I'd love to see a little more info off of him, but he was not picked on last week. Our outside corners have been picked on this year. They're more of the responsibility, and our safeties are more of the responsibility for why we've given up as much yardage as we've given up. He's not been the problem to me. He's not been the problem. And I really like his play. I think he's just what you need in the slot corner. He's just you'd love a little more size, maybe for instance, like what you get with Marquise Blair, but everything else he's got. The feistiness, the tackling ability you need from slot corners, because they got to be there in the run game. The ability to step up on a bubble screen and jump that route and be physical. I've seen enough. I think the kid's got
be able to spy Kyler next game.
That as well. I mean, he could do that role, and he's got the quickness and speed to stay with him. I love his instincts. I think he's got, there's some problems in the secondary, but he's not been one of the problems of this secondary. That's why I don't want to move him out. It's like the one thing that's not broken, you don't need to fix right now to flip Neal over into a spot. Go flip it into some other spot that's a broken area of thing, and because there's plenty of areas that are kind of having some issues. I wouldn't maybe say whole hog broken, but just have some issues going on that need to be maybe dealt with.
All right, we got Ted with the $5 donation. We appreciate you.
Ted, I salute you, man. Thank you so much for that $5 donation.
He says, thanks for the content, y'all. I'm happy to hear those island gals are doing it for you, BR.
Dmack, I'm not hating the landscape here. You know what I'm saying? The landscape is not bad here.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Whoa. All right, Teddy.
All right, Teddy. Thank you for that $5 donation. So let's see here. I saw that Kyler yelled at Hopkins during the week at Hopkins, didn't know what to do, said he'd never been yelled at. I saw those two not really have good chemistry during the game, or am I just high? Well, I mean, if right now with bad chemistry, Hopkins is leading the league in catches and I think yardage right now, God, we better hope they never get on the same page, huh? I mean, they've been pretty sensational so far, with that. So I don't know. That could be an interesting that you're pointing to.
Yeah, Kyler was so emotionally invested in that game. I have no clue why. But he was just on when I just saw his body language, his frustration. And I did see when he yelled at Hopkins, and Hopkins said after the game, like, that was the first time I think I ever got yelled at. So it kind of threw him off and everything. I think it was just a funny thing after they looked back at it, like, bro, did you just yell at me, bro? Like, what was that? Like, what I'm saying? I think they laughed that off. I mean, but too many times in like too many situations, then you'll lose your wide receiver. But I think he's, obviously gained his respect to be able to even say anything to Hopkins. This is a, top 3 wide receivers. So.
To me, it's an indicator of Murray willing to do what a lot of quarterbacks in this day and age aren't willing to do in this millennial area of quarterbacks coming up and not, I want my quarterback in his receiver years when he's got a problem. And even if he's wrong to a degree at a time, I still want to making that communication as opposed to the quarterback just sits on the bench and goes.
Right. Like, example, Andy Dalton laughing and smiling every bad throw he made.
Seriously.
He was just coming back to the huddle like,
well, that's what happens.
You see that? Like, goofy, man. Like, I'd rather have a guy fired up and passionate versus, just the goofy guy that's just like aloof.
I agree. It's body language matters in quarterbacks. I've said it time and time again. It's a thing people get a little bit, well, why? No, it matters. You can tell in a guy when he's out there and he's leading people and he's pushing them. You see in Russell's body language, you see in other quarterbacks' body. Drew Brees' quarterbacks, and you can see the Peyton Manning and Tom Brady's through the years. We could go through a litany of quarterbacks that had that same kind of way they carried themselves, where they're going to be leaders out on the team. And the quarterback is not a matter of an option. He has to be the leader out on the football team. Every player is looking to him. It's not a matter of what if, it's a matter of it has to be. So
It
when
was
you have a
it
guy,
was one of the knocks on him coming out of the draft is just his uber confidence and kind of it comes off as arrogance too. So this falls right in line of what people said about him coming out of the draft and things like that. He's uber talented. These guys are very cerebral and like I said, they work on it all week. They expect you to just get it down. And like I said, he's just he was fired up. So
yeah,
moment.
Tyler's going to be a problem for years to come. I really do think he is, unless there's some major injury that cuts back his mobility. He's going to be a guy that I say he's just a problem. Just a problem. Maxwell Stern says the next 5 games are going to be hard for the Hawks. Hopefully we'll go like 3-2. I'd go good. I'd feel pretty good about 3-2 over the next 5. D, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'd feel pretty okay if we got through it like that. James Glenn, I want to see what BBK can do. If we're not going to play him at linebacker, what the hell did we draft him for? Special teams? ? Yeah, I'm a little unsure with that too. I mean, one of the things with drafting Jordan Brooks this year after you put a 3rd round pick on Cordy Barton and then a 5th round pick on Ben Burke-Kirven was, well, what about them? I mean, you drafted those guys relatively high. I mean, the 5th round's not a high pick, I guess, but the 3rd rounder is. I mean, what is the plan here? And that's one of the reasons I've still come back to. I think Jordan Brooks has been drafted for the middle linebacker position sooner rather than the later. But I don't know. Ben Burke-Kirven was a guy that led the NCAA in tackles in his senior year at Washington Huskies. That's what caused him to get picked in the 5th round. He's got a former safety convert, so he's got legitimate 4.5 speed. Probably a low foot to 2 type size, 5'11"ish. So that's a little bit smaller for an outside linebacker, and that's probably what keeps him off the field if there's one thing over another, right? D, it's hard to have a 5'11" outside linebacker in the NFL. He's kind of a middle linebacker or nothing at that point. But again, much like Barton, I think we can take these as indicators that between Barton's play and not having Ben Burke-Kirven on the field, if he can't even challenge Barton in Barton's less than stellar play, both of these guys' upside, both of their future may be just a little bit limited. You agree?
I agree. Craig is saying that Arizona game scares him. We're coming off a bye, so this is an actual coin flip for him.
Could be. So, also, the one thing with this is the Cardinals are on a shortened week. They just had to go play Monday night in Dallas. Now they got to fly all the way back over to Arizona and get prepped to play Seattle with one less day. Does that, how does that factor into it? I tend to think in this case, this bye will help us. But, they're a tough team, man. But me and D, I don't know. Both of us have, I think, kind of a silent confidence here against the Cardinals, where we just
it's weird how we do, but it's just one of those things. It's just seeing them on film. It's just like that team doesn't, give me any kind of trepidation. That team, from a matchup standpoint, I think we match up very well with them.
And that's what I'm in the same place. I think we do match up well. I think we've got some things to handle it. They're going to be competitive. And like we said, it's going to be a shootout. There's going to be points. We know this will probably come down to the wire. They got a chance, but just the Rams to me are more of a problem at this point. And it's kind of the way it is.
Shervins is saying throw a 4th rounder at Houston for JJ Watt.
I do it in a heartbeat, and I think that the key on the JJ Watt deal is if he's going to retire, Texans would be willing to bail on him at that point. Not bail on him, but to give him a chance to go play for a Super Bowl. I worded that horribly. To get a chance to go for a ring. They'll let him do that at that point, or they're being just devils. And there's consultants that are consulting with the owners right now because they don't have a general manager and they don't have a head coach, which is always a nice combination to not have as an NFL organization, that they should now start to do the fire sale offload. They have, I think, $15 million already over the cap moving into next year. Moving JJ Watt now will go far to helping that. I would make the move on it. I like the move on it. I don't see a downside to the 4th rounder. It's a price that I'm fully willing to pay. I think that's the key. If he's going to play 2 years, though, he might still stay in with Houston, right? Because you've got Deshaun Watson, and he can always say, well, I've got the quarterback here. In year to year, you never know if you've got the quarterback.
Well, I mean, with Bill O'Brien out the door, I don't think they'll give us any more love trades. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not. And not after what you did to us with Clowney. They actually ended out okay on that deal, though. They did. I mean, they got the they got raped a little bit on the trade. It is a small rape. It was a what is it? Whatever. But yeah, I would do it if they would. You like Wendy Merciless too, as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he's a 30-year-old guy. That's another guy that people have looked at as maybe a target we could take a peek at. And I'd be okay with that trade too. Either of those two guys, I'd probably feel pretty good about it. Them at least moderately improving the pass rush. I'd feel even better about them than first, like we've talked about Carlos Dunlap or Ryan Kerrigan. A couple guys that are just kind of it seems like they're done. They don't have a lot left.
Jose saying, Dmack, can you see Richard Sherman coming back next season? I can see him definitely because they'll want him back. He'll make another, huge check. But me personally, like if I was him, I wouldn't. I would just hang it up. Once you get in, to that many years being in the NFL, I think he's proved everything he's got to prove. But I do think he will come back. I mean, why not?
I do think he'll probably be in It's Richard, and this is his mentality. He'll try to. I think with you, I'm in the same boat. Last year, you cemented your spot in the Hall of Fame with the season that you had. You showed you had one more elite season left. That's going to get you into the Hall for sure at that point. At this point in time, that leg and his speed, I don't know. And there's been talk, he's talked in the past about transitioning over into safety. If he wanted to become a free safety or something like that, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's an option there if he was to do something like that. But to play corner on the outside anymore, I think his days doing that are probably numbered at this point. Hard to see him getting faster.
If he wants to come back and get, just destroyed, I mean, because you're going to have to, break and cut and all these different things. And I just don't think, with that type of injury that he's going to be able to keep up with these young guys.
The only cornerbacks that I've really seen in my lifetime that have been able to sustain themselves into even their mid-30s are the guys who started out with the ridiculous Darrell Green, Washington Redskins speed, right? The track guy, 4.3 guy, who then when he went to 4.45 at 34, 35, he could still hang on there. But, Richard comes out with the 40 back 10 years ago at 4.57 or some stuff. And now it starts to fall into the 6'9", 4.75 range. It's just not fast enough to get it done.
He's gonna get exposed.
Yeah, that's just not. It's not going to happen there. Randall McDaniel says, "Is John Schneider being stubborn by adding more? Would they be admitting the offseason approach was wrong?" Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Like me and Dmack before we started the show today, we're talking a little bit about Jalen Smith and how the Jalen Smith plays itself out to the place it is now, where you have overpaid on a guy who's not the player you've paid for him to be. They just moved him to a different outside linebacker role this year, a year after paying him. That's never a good sign.
Right.
But
based
on potential. And you knew when you got him, Dmack, when you saw that injury at Notre Dame, and he has the guy snap his legs back. Are you drafting that guy in the top 4 rounds at that point? I'm not trying to be cold-blooded about this, but I don't really need a lot of medical evaluations to look at that. No, he doesn't have feeling in his toes anymore right now, and maybe that'll come back. That's probably a 5th, 6th, 7th round flyer guy to me at that point. And I think for a lot of the teams in the league, it was. Wouldn't it be that way for you on that? Yeah. And so they draft him in the 2nd round, too high on that type of pick. He's slow to come back, takes a year to come back. Jerry is married to this idea of it working out and it being what he wants it to be. And then he plays moderately well out the gate, and then they're just looking for a reason to give him a contract. And then now it's sort of being exposed as a bad deal. That's when you get married to deals. And this is what you're talking about, Randall. That's my kind of try this back to Randall's question is, these general managers do get married to their approach. They get married to stuff that doesn't work. And we've seen this with Seattle and picking badly in the 1st round. The nice thing about this year is they finally realized we don't pick well, maybe in the 1st round here. So let's start maybe trading for better players and legitimate players in the 1st round rather than mucking the bed with this, with these picks. But I'd like to see them make another transition here. You're in a Super Bowl year. Dmack, I think that if you were to land after the trade deadline and Seattle had not made a move, they'd done nothing instead, stood pat at this point and relied on Rasheem Green coming back and Darrell Taylor coming back. I think in my stance, I'm very disappointed in Schneider at that point, not getting something done. Wouldn't you be as well, and understanding the stakes that are at play here, the potential that you have in this season, what's up for grabs and what's right there in your hand right now?
Yeah, I would. I definitely will. Like I said, Russell's got a limited window. And with us being 5-0, come on, man, go for it. Like let's just go for it. Why not? Why not add another piece or two and really go at this thing and try to secure it now instead of waiting, to see how our luck falls for us. So yeah.
Yeah. I think this will be the prevailing theory in that front office too. So I don't think it's going to happen where they stand pat, Randall. I'd be shocked. Absolutely shocked to see them in this season, in this time, knowing the pass rush, knowing how many yards they've given up in the air, to think that they're just going to sit there and go, snacks is enough. Just a big one tech. That's all we needed. Nice big fat one tech will get it done. Mm-hmm. Russ is cussing. It's about time. Did you see Russell cussing in the thing? He gave an MF or Dmack on the after the touchdown catch. You can see it on the All Access. I've never seen Russell do it. He's like, that's good, motherfucker. Yeah, Russell, I love it. I love Russell with a little edge. If Russell's got if his knife's even been just slightly sharpened. It's so much of a better player to me when he's playing with that little bit of the edge, completely out of the nice guy approach. I mean, it's not just with that. I'm here to just roast your ass. Like, yes, Russell. Yes. I love it. What's up with Jamal Adams? We're going to give him another week, Zach. We got to give this guy probably another week to rest up. So don't want to force those groin injuries back. Like Dmack was saying, man, they can pop back up if you don't let them heal.
They can pop back up. They can linger. They can, I mean, if you want to go deep, have a deep run into the championship, you're going to need him healthy and 100%. So I'd rather, like I said, sit him out another week or two. Sit him out 3. I don't care.
That's right. It comes down to just being careful. You need him at the end of the season here right now. You don't need him right now necessarily. You got little room for error because you built up this undefeated season so far. So that gives you the opportunity to not have to make that risk right now. And I don't think either of us can make a prediction on when there's going to be a trade. Can we, Dmack? I mean, like at this point, it could happen tomorrow. It could be right up at the end of the trade deadline. I think anybody telling you they know when a deal is going to happen because we don't hear any. Have you heard any stuff I know you're looking deep on this stuff at times too, Dmack. I've not heard of any real rumors. People have mentioned Carlos Dunlap in this stream.
That's the only thing that's speculating right now is Carlos Dunlap.
I just don't have any. I don't have anybody that right now that they're even on hot to trot on. So they weren't in on Nate Irvin. They didn't have him in for even a visit. They seem it's all quiet on the Western front at the moment. So we'll see if it does change, but it definitely is very silent, dead silence. Patrick Queen is going to be a defensive rookie of the year. Meanwhile, we took Brooks a pick earlier. Yeah, that's
the story of my life.
that's another one of those tough pills from this last draft, Shervins. That's a bit rough. I don't know if Patrick Queen plays as well here if we pick him. Keep in mind that the Ravens are running the completely opposite scheme to what we're running, a 3-4 scheme that blitzes more than anybody else in the NFL. So him flourishing in that role, does he flourish as well as the outside will? I mean, Dmack, it's hard to make that
apples and oranges.
Bingo. Okay, there we go. So I think it's hard to say that he would have been the better pick to me is to go for a different player. Had been like, in that spot to find something like Yetur Gross-Matos is tearing it up right now with Carolina. I would have gone with him. That was a guy I liked a lot better in that spot, but we'll see what we got with Brooks, man. We're going to have to, we still have no tape on. We got like 2 plays in Dallas and then he rolled his ankle, I guess. So OCC 2.0, thank you for the $2 donation. We salute you, sir. You guys are being awesome with the donos today. Thank you so much. Ted Brogan says, OCC's been coming a little of the dono action too, man. I don't care if it's you don't have to donate anything, OCC. You donate $1, $2 from the bottom of our hearts. We do appreciate it. So I know we're in a tough time. Everybody's in a pandemic.
We're going to give you a yes, sir, OC.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to give you a yes, sir, OC.
We appreciate you. Ted Brogan says, when Jamal Adams comes back, what do you all think will be the percentage of plays he'll be available? The percentage of plays versus what he does usually. So he's sort of saying is Jamal Adams going to be on a snap count when he comes back from injury? And I don't think so. I think that's one of the reasons you wait for him to become healthy fully is that when he comes back, then he's at 100% of the snaps on the football.
You don't have to limit his counts. Yeah.
That's why you wait. Because you don't want to, it's with those groin injuries. It's just make sure it's all done, gone, blown out. John Ross wants to trade that speed with Russ. That could be OG. We got a Bengals guy here. I don't know. We got a Bengals centric questions here. So what do you think on John Ross, man?
John Ross? No, we don't want him. We don't want him. He is who we thought he was.
We let him off the hook.
He's a track star. That's it. He's a track star.
Surprising for me too, because he looked so good in college, and it wasn't just those deep balls. He looked like actually a guy who could be an NFL receiver. I wasn't shocked to see him drafted. I was shocked to see him run that fast. I don't know if I thought he was that 4.3.1 type guy, whatever. But yeah, he just has been a guy. I don't see how that you're turning that around. It's just been emptiness there right now. It's just kind of emptiness. We have other spots too. You got Josh Gordon coming back, Antonio Brown coming back, David Moore here, Swain, Parkinson coming back off of IR.
Yeah, we're good. And then we're speculating the AB. Like, come on, we're good.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing you don't need right now necessarily. So maybe after this season we can kick the tires on him depending on where we're at. Shervin says that dude Jamal is so grateful to be in Seattle. I laughed my ass off. The Jets are 0-5, Seahawks 5-0, and the Jets are the most incompetent organization in the NFL, and the Seahawks are one of the best. Mm-hmm. Certainly, He's
a
held
humble
losing
cat.
Jamin. He is, and they lost. They were a functional defense last year. They held themselves in there. They actually ended out strong. They lose Jamal Adams is the one aspect of that defense. Even getting a guy like Bradley McDougall in the mix there, and they're way worse. So if you guys want to know about Jamal Adams' impact and understand what he can do for a defense, look no further than right there. Why do people talk about? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why do people talk about Russ having a small window? He said he plans to play to 45. Oh my goodness. I think he'll be competing for at least the next 10 years. What do you think?
I'll let you start this one.
When I say small window, I'm not saying per se for him. I'm saying like as far as the team, how it's constructed. You know, Russell can't do it by himself. He needs a great defense. He needs, you know, everything to be set in place to win a championship. So when I say small window, I mean, you know, looking at the next 3 to 4 years, this is probably a small window for him to win a Super Bowl. I mean, the years of going back to back or even three-peating are kind of gone. Like, what teams are built to even do that anymore? So when I say small window, I'm saying like small window as far as like, hey, he's 5-0 right now. Let's gun for it because you know everybody's gonna have that slump coming in year 2 and year 3. It's so hard to repeat that magic.
Yeah. And I think of it in that terms, but I also do think of it in a bit of a window because this is something I hear from fans a little bit is that the guy's going to play for 10 years and be competitive. And there's a difference between being competitive and being an MVP candidate season in, season out. You know, right now, Tom Brady's playing. Is he an MVP candidate right now? I don't know. Is Drew Brees is playing right now in his late 30s? Is he an MVP candidate anymore? No. Is he even a league average quarterback anymore? I don't know. Phillip Rivers is playing right now into his late 30s. Is he a league average quarterback or is he a better than league average quarterback? I don't know. My point on this, yeah, he'll probably play for the next 10 years and even at a high level. But to D's point and what D's saying, the further we get outside the window, the more of the complete team you're going to have to then build around Russell because there is going to be a skill set that draws back. I don't care if they've got HGH flowing through the blood in their veins. Father Time is undefeated. I've watched enough quarterbacks go from their mid-30s to their late 30s and seen this general drop off and play. There's certain things that come into play, like their arms get tired over the course of the season. Their arm strength will start out really strong and then fall off as you get into the playoffs and we're adverse conditions. I also know that Russell relies heavily upon his legs and that those legs are not going to last probably into your 37, 38 years old, especially as the game moves on from you, right? Already behind him, you got your Lamar Jacksons, Josh Allens, and your people that can run as fast as a running back and then are big and have all the escapability and stuff and there's going to be more of those guys proliferating the system as well in competition to him, which will make him look a little bit less as well at that time. He'll still be competitive, still be a Pro Bowl, probably level quarterback, but the MVP caliber guy that can take the team on his shoulders, we just don't ask him to take the team on his shoulders a little bit less. He's going to take us to a Super Bowl with that at that point. That's always been my thought process.
And I think a lot of people, they estimate the toll on a player's body when he is doing so much for a franchise. And Russell is doing a lot for this team, and he can't continue to do that for 10 years. And so when I say small window, I'm saying per se to his health, to his play, and everything else. Russell Wilson, like I said, he's great, but like I said, you can say the same thing about Dak Prescott. You can say, hey, he was going to carry Dallas Cowboy for the next 10 years. Boom, injury happens. Like, so you know what I mean? You want to count your pennies while you got them.
Thinking 7 years down. Well, he'll be here in 7 years. That gets you into a point of complacency, I think is what you're saying, right? Like you just think of that through the gym, you're going to be comfortable and like, oh, we got the time, all the time in the world.
We got 10 years. There's no rush. Like, no.
And that's what it comes down to for me in the key of this moment right now, Dmack, because you have the fifth amount, most of cap space moving into next offseason, in an offseason where there's a plethora of teams already over the cap before they've even got a complete roster set. Use up some of that space, kick that can down the road, go for the now because we're in that window, because this is that time. You know, that's why this, like you're saying, this is why this is driving it. Like all the arrows, all the astrological chart above you in the sky with the stars and where they're focused and pointing you in this direction. So go with that flow is what I would, and yeah. Ted Brogan with another $2 donation. What's going on here with Ted? Thank you so much, my guy. You get the double salute for me, triple salute.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
What's the chow like on the islands? It's absolutely horrible. The food here is not good unless you want to just be eating slimy seafood constantly, and I hate seafood, so.
He hates a lot of things, so let's.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I Dmack knows
eater.
I'm one of the more picky
Picky eater,
eaters
so
there is in the world.
it's
So
probably not
that's
the
true.
guy to ask about food places.
Yeah, I'm not exactly the connoisseur. Like, oh, the Le Frere is le magnifique, and it's a little bit of Rougeon and some juju and some babalish and some galouche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, not the guy to ask on that one. It's burgers and fries over here. So are you guys okay? Zach asks, are you guys impressed with Shaquem Griffin? Was waived and stayed on the practice squad. Okay, were you impressed that he was essentially waived and stayed on the practice squad? He had offers from other NFL teams out there, yet chose to remain. Does that impress me about him having a willingness to stick through with the organization at that point? Where are you on that one? Is that impressed with you, or do you think he just knows this is his best place to have any sort of chance with?
And he knows, he knows he's one injury away from going to be relevant again. And so you go to another team and you got to build rapport, you got to rebuild, who you are with that, and ingratiate yourself with that new franchise. So he did what's best for probably him and his family and his career, basically. So it is very impressive. So yeah, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I like it too. I don't like the fact they moved him down to the practice squad after he played so well. When he's back up again, he's shown enough to me on film with it. If I had better pass rushers on this team, maybe I'd be more willing to do it. But the fact that we have such a dearth of guys that can get after the quarterback. And I saw even in this game in certain spots where he had a chance. There was a fumble with Cousins where KJ Wright got the fumble. He came off the edge, went inside, and gave a little spin move back to the outside as the backside defenders rushing Cousins from the back edge. And between that sandwich, his activity and just being there to then press it, that helped cause that fumble. He didn't get credit for it. He wasn't the guy that caused it, but that's the kind of activity. Good things happen when Shaquem Griffin is out on the football field. That's how I feel. It's like good stuff happens. So let's get him out there.
Speed kills.
Y2K, Dmack's finally here. How much I miss? You missed nothing.
Yes, sir. What's going on, Y2K?
We're rolling through it all here. Randall McDaniel mentioned Aeneas Williams as a dude who played late in his career for the Cardinals. Yeah, he's a good quarterback, a fast guy too. I think really young in his career, pretty quick guy. Oh, very smart cornerback as well. Sherman says we don't need any help at receiver. We have the best offense in the NFL right now. I agree with you. We're not necessarily in need of wide receiver help. I just think the Antonio Brown thing is something that's been in the works prior to this offensive explosion and Russell where he is. And I think that they have this potential deal in place. And again, from all the factors I see, I know Dmack disagrees with me on this a little bit, but just from the factors I've seen, the arrows are pointing to Antonio ending up with the Hawks at this point if I was a betting man. But I think Ravens would be my number 2 as well. So
and it's weird because we used to need offensive help. So now it's like, what the?
I know
we're
it's very
saying
strange.
That we need defensive help. Yeah,
I know it is very strange. Like we're fine offensive, we're stacked offensively, we're good. No, linemen, no, we're okay on linemen. And that's one of the surprising stats for me this season. Dmack, I think of all the surprising stats, is that the Seahawks are a top 10, even flourishing with being a top 5 pass protecting football team this year. That just from watching all these last years with what it's been as far as just Russ constantly under pressure.
Didn't I say that like week 2 or something like that? I said it is flipped around our philosophy on how we play football, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like
it's
crazy
amazing.
to see.
It's amazing because you could have let Russ cook 2 years ago, and that offensive line just would have gotten massacred. Where there was no opportunity for you to give him any kind of time to let him to work back there. But this offensive line's letting him do anything he wants back there, man. I mean, he's cooking up a full Sunday brunch,
Y2K is saying, are there any 5 million ish corners you'd like to see us go after?
So he's saying, is there a corner that would cost about $5 million? So here's what I think I get what Y2K is saying. So maybe Y2K is looking at one of two things. You let Dunbar and or Shaquille Griffin go. You look to go a little bit cheaper there. Is there a $5 million cornerback who you might be willing to go out there and pluck up in this offseason out there, free agency? I think we'd have to look at who the free agents would potentially be out there. And I don't know who the other troubling part of this Dmack is bringing in free agents, as we've seen at times at cornerback into this team and how they would necessarily fit. I mean, even Dunbar's not necessarily been able to get on the field or you can consider as yet a complete success story.
Yeah, he's not a complete fit, but they're making it work. But
I like if Jason Verrett off the 49ers gets to be a free agent. I know he gets banged up a bunch and beat up a bunch, but he's a dog corner out there. That Verrett kid is. If he slides out, I'd be interested in him. I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that would necessarily. I think it would be more about drafting a guy raw who doesn't have any bad habits and teaching him the kick step technique and letting him flow with the bail tech cover three stuff and just like did with Shaquille, just let him get his feet wet.
Corners with Seattle through the draft in my book.
Cheap, right, D? I mean, that's it. Just stay cheap because there's no reason.
Yeah, because they're not asked to do much, man. It's a really vanilla, job that they have to do on the field. So, I mean, you don't want to go pay top dollar for a guy that's kick stepping into, bail techniques.
Right.
Like, I mean,
wasted money, isn't it?
Put all your money on that front four.
Zach asked if we should go for Dan Quinn. I don't know about a retread here if you end up kicking Norton to the curb. Do you? I mean, I know that there's a lot of people like him. He's the Super Bowl defensive coordinator for us when we won the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, Dmack, I think I'd almost be more wanting to get a different guy in here with some fresh ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
TJ says he'll donate $100 if I say go somebody, but I'm not going to say that because I have principles and morals, and you can't buy my principles and morals with a sheer donation. I'm just not that kind of guy. I'm not that wired. And neither is Dmack.
Yep.
Marvin Dumas says he wants to fire Norton. What do you think about that? Should we fire Norton, Dmack?
Yes.
Wow, Dmack coming strong. Dmack is bringing the hook on Norton mid-season. He needs to see anything less. Oh man. Shervin says Fitzmagic is almost 38 and he can scramble around. I think Russell will have decent mobility into his late 30s. The difference between those two at that point in time is there's been a lot of time periods for Fitzmagic where he's got a chance to rest his body up and get it nice and fresh, play for about a season and a half worth of games, get benched, wait another 2 seasons, come back out and play. And Russell Wilson, we're talking about a guy whose engine's been running and revving since the day he walked onto the football field. Every season he's playing extra playoff games. He's played in literally every game of the NFL. The thought process that won't eventually kind of slow you down, that you get some of the, you've seen with Ben Roethlisberger, right? Guy looks a little bit like Frankenstein at times. He comes out there and you can just feel the ligaments and shoulders hurting and stuff hurting. Russell, he still is able to play, but the mobility aspect, I think, is going to be a little bit reduced with Russell as he gets older. Not to say he can't still be a little bit mobile, just it won't be as much a main part of his game in getting away. It comes back to just it's a sliding scale of the what players you need to be good now to overcome not necessarily having Russell at MVP level, but just simply at maybe Pro Bowl level.
And the other thing is Fitzpatrick hasn't put a franchise on his back for 6-7 years either.
Exactly.
Like, come on, man.
Exactly.
It's like having a luxury car sitting in the garage for 7 years
Seriously.
and saying, "Oh, he's 38, he can still scramble." It's different.
Yeah,
we've been riding our car a little bit harder.
Yeah, just revving that engine a little more.
Yeah,
we got more highway
oil
time.
changes on, and
a few more drag races in there.
Yeah.
Joseph says he's sorry, but Russ is a different breed. He says he spends $1 million every year on his body. I think he'll have a better or similar career as Brady. We'll see. And maybe he will. I'm not to say that, look, he could be at a Pro Bowl level at 37 and not necessarily at the MVP level that he's at right now and still win Super Bowls. My example of that would be Tom Brady. Tom Brady won some Super Bowls here through the last part of his career when he was not in the MVP discussion really, or at least the MVP winner. So you can still go win those Super Bowl trophies at that point. The whole point of this wraps back around, though, to that being we're right in the middle of Russell's prime. We're not in the beginning of his prime. We're not at the end of his prime. We're at the prime level of his play. He's playing at a level right now that is going to be the top of the mark. Not going to probably get back above that point. And so it's in that aspect, Joseph, is to say at the base point of this, because let's dial it back to the core spot here, which is that take advantage of the season, take advantage of the now. Don't get caught up in what we've got him to 38, to 39, to 40. And let's face it, folks, there's not necessarily a 100% guarantee if you want to rely upon that Russell's going to stay in Seattle necessarily through that time 100%. There's been open flirtations. There's been open flirtations right now with New York. Last time Sierra's, he's got a wife in there going, I don't know. I'd like LA. I don't know. I'd like, maybe LA Chargers in 10 years sounds, 8 years sounds okay. I'm not sweating it, but that's why I don't get caught up on the tomorrow 10 years.
Yeah, that what if stuff. That what if stuff is it's a lot of scenarios that can play in that, because we were talking about what if Russell Wilson wanted to leave because he wasn't getting all the pieces that he needs in order to be successful. So we can talk about tomorrow all we want, but I'm in the now business.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So we'll see. But I do agree with you, Joseph. I think Dmack agrees as well in this, and that he is a different breed. He is a different breed there at the quarterback. OCC likes himself some seafood. I get it. A lot of people do. I wish I did too. There's something about the consistency, chewiness, and taste, texture. It combines to just make me not like it. Got to have the sense of urgency. Got to have a sense of urgency, and the groin injury to Jamal is proof, regardless of how dedicated RD3 is to his health. Yeah. Oh, so you're agreeing with me? It just shows it doesn't matter. You got to have that urgency of the now, not be thinking about we got years to get this right. Joseph says Russ played with an MCL and an ankle sprain. He did. He didn't play at a high level, and when he had his mobility cut down at that time, he was reduced as a player. So yes, he did. But go look at his stats and go look at those games that he played right after that injury. Now, as he got healthier as the year got on, it got better near the end, I think. But there's about a 6, 7, 8 game stretch there where he was struggling. He was fighting through it. He was being the good soldier. But you tell me that Russell's mobility is cut down, it's going to affect his production level, right? D. I mean, he's going to gain a mastery, but it just is what it is with that. Michael Simon says Randy Gregory came off the commissioner's list today. Why not Gordon? I don't know on that. Does the commissioner just hate Josh Gordon, Dmack?
Yes. Short answer, yes. They're tired of his foolishness, man. They don't sweat him out.
So we're going to do we're going to go through the last kind of questions here because I know D-Mac's going to have to be getting to work here, and we're going to kind of do these more. I want to do them in and out for you folks so we can get more of these shows out to you. I know I get long-winded in my streams, and please do go over to D-Mac Talk Seahawks channel and subscribe to his channel. He's going to be doing little blurbs and videos out as well. We're going to be building up on this stuff. This is our weekly thing that we want to kind of get going. So please go over there and do that. True. He had to cut himself off from admitting as much on the pod. Russ played with an MCL. Team 12s. What's up, Team 12s? Why do the NFL power rankers keep ranking the Seahawks outside of the top 4? Why they hate them so much? I think that the one stat that ends up getting caught in the people that aren't buying Seattle as a contender at this point is the fact that they're on pace to give up more yardage in the air than anyone else in NFL history. I think that thing just gets caught in people's rib cage.
Those analytics.
And the analytics, and they just go, how is a team like that going to win the Super Bowl no matter who their quarterback is? And it's honestly a good question. It really is a good question, D-Mac. I think it's a fair thing to say about this team. There's reason to believe it'll get better. There's reason to believe this isn't going to be the way it is through the whole year that we're going to set that record. But when you're on pace to do that in this passing age with the bad defenses we've seen, right? I mean, it's hard to put them as the number 1 team at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. It's fair.
Bengals only trade quarterbacks. First Palmer, and then they bungled the deal to Cleveland for their backup from Bama. Couldn't figure out how to use a fax machine. You remember that one, D-Mac? They messed up getting the fax off. Oh, man, that's just, Well, they got a good quarterback now. You like yourself Burrow, right? I think he's looking pretty good for the future. They got to give him an offensive line, but Burrow there looks okay. T. Higgins looks functional, D-Mac, doesn't he? I mean, I'm not saying that they're on the road, but they're in a tough division, but they're at least not where they've been, which is just without anything back there.
And for clarity, I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm just from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay? Yes, he's fully Seahawks fan, guys. He's a Seahawks fan. I've long converted him. I just like to reference that when I reference him because I know that even every once in a while he's at least got a half eye to seeing what they're doing and aware of it. And he's got family back home. I'm sure we talked to him here and there about it. But NFL Logic Con, why Lions still suspended? Smoking weed is worse. It is. Josh Gordon shouldn't be suspended, folks. I don't think anybody at this point thinks anywhere in the nation that he should be suspended right now. It doesn't make a lot of sense for anyone.
Tom Brady won an MVP at 40 years old.
He did. I don't think that was his he absolutely did, but I don't think that was he went to the Super Bowl. And again, Tom Brady's a pocket quarterback who didn't need to rely upon his mobility. So when he loses mobility going into his 40s, it's not affecting his game. When Russell Wilson loses some of his mobilities going into his 40, as every quarterback who goes into his 40 is going to lose his mobility. I don't care if he spends $2 million on his body every year. It just is the way it goes. There is going to be an effect to his game. Do you not think? I don't see Russell getting that much more above and smarter at this point or solving the game that much more further along at this point to overcome the point when you lose a second on your 40 time, when you go for being a guy in the 5.46 range to the guy in the 4.7, 4.75 range, right? I mean, that is a difference. And the thing with Russell, as great as he is that he's a guy that's got to drop back a little bit further on his drops so he can see over the top of the lineman. Works really well in his favor right now. Part of the reason he's so quick to get back in his drops. Is he going to have that ability to go back in those drops as quickly as he gets into 30 or 39? There's some real intricacies to this, I feel like, Dmack, in this kind of discussion. But to think and believe a guy goes in this late, when you watch these other quarterbacks falling off, Drew Brees' arms lost it. Philip Rivers' arms gone.
And Brady's the exception to the rule. I mean, name another guy. Just name another guy, and I'll wait.
Exactly.
Space says, "Hey, what's up? What's going on, Space?
What's up, Space? How you doing, man? Good to see you in the chat.
Good to see you on Posix play so far. Haven't heard his name much.
Well, this is one of those things with linemen I always go back to, and I do believe it's the case. When you don't hear them mentioned, when they're not being talked about, that just means they're doing their job. And the thing that I think,
he said, which is a good thing.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I got to this at the off season. This has been actually a really common theme between me and Dmack talking about this stuff, which is that players to be drafted for the right positions. You're not going to draft a man-on-man corner for zone. You're not going to take a guy that's a center in college, excels as a center in college, and then move him to guard. That's not a recipe for success for an NFL football player. There's players that can do it, but especially they're a natural center in college or a natural zone corner or man in corner in college, it's not the smart way of picking and assembling your team. Posick was never, to me, a guard in this league. He's a guy who could be a pretty good center, at the very least an upper level center in this league. Maybe not Pro Bowl, but at least an upper level guy. I think he's playing at least league average upper level right now, not Pro Bowl, but he's creating holes in the blocking game. He's creating some holes in blocking. He's a great combo blocker. It's what he excels at. That's the thing with me, Dmack, that I loved about him, is he was a guy that those guys who can't combo block, like the running backs who can't chip for their life, can't just get that one hand on the guy while the other guy's engaged with him. This is not that type of guy. He finds his ways to get his hands on the other guy legally and helping the other guy block to clear out that first hole. That's the part of his game I like going back into college. He's smart. He's cagey. He doesn't give up pressures in pass protection. I think he's had a couple games he's given up 0 throughout like a couple of games back to back. So I think he's looking good to me. Where are you at with him?
You know me, I'm offensive lineman bore me. So you know, offensive lineman guru. I don't even watch enough for posters. When I'm watching film, I'm not watching posters. I'm just being honest.
Well, I watched him a bit, and I'm on the board thinking he's just what we wanted and hoped we could get out of him this year. And maybe he's not, again, Pro Bowl level or an all pro, but I don't think that's what we needed with this line. At the end of the day, what we really needed with this offensive line that we're missing for the last few years was at least a league average play across the board. Not just nightmare here, nightmare there, this guy falling apart, that guy injured and done for the season. That's what we've been running into, and that's not what we're running into this year. And he's helping and supply that, along with a guy like Damian Lewis, who's playing outstanding football as well. Oh, Mike went out, it looks like. Sounds like our mic's done here. Dmack, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Well, I think this is a good time to call here. If we're getting the mic call, you got to get on here to the work you work. But that was a good little show here with you guys folks today. Really enjoyed it. Trying to get got to try to figure out how to get to these deal gets stuck. But we appreciate all the questions. This was an awesome little show. We're going to try to do this as a weekly kind of thing if we possibly can. And we don't have the mic going. So how do I?
Some people are saying they have sound. I have sound. They said we're good.
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. But we'll still end it on that. We definitely had a great, general talk this time. And like I said, we appreciate everybody coming out with great answers and questions and just giving us a lot of things to think about. And it was just a good session that we had, and going into off our bye week and going into playing Arizona. And like I said, I hope our predictions are right, at least up by 10 points at the end.
We feel good about it. We feel good. So I think our confidence, maybe it's absurdly high because of the undefeated season or whatever, Dmack, but I feel good where we're at and what we got going. And I think this week we're keep going. We could get surprised. I am predicting, as I think you are too, and somebody else mentioned, 3-2 probably over the next couple games. And this could be one of those losses, but I like where we're at. No Chandler Jones, Cardinals on a short week. I feel good. If you folks have any ideas for us that you want to talk about, just general NFL talk or questions for the next week's show, please do post it down there in the chat, in the comment section, and hit that like button if you haven't already hit it. And if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. Subscribe to me and then subscribe to Dmack, Talk Seahawks. It's completely free, doesn't cost you a thing. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell, because sometimes YouTube doesn't let you know when we go in live. It's really messed up. You know what I mean? It's messed up. It's a messed up thing.
Yep. And look, Mom on TV. Wow.
Oh, hold on. Wait, I got Ted Brogan, $5 donation, man, as he's on his way out. Thank you, Ted Brogan. I
Ted,
do
yes, sir.
appreciate it.
Thank you. You the GOAT,
Ted,
man. You the
You are the
GOAT.
GOAT, Ted Brogan. Randall McDaniel with the 20 plus. We got OCC in there. You guys are so good with the donations. Always appreciate it. We will be back hopefully in a couple days, maybe. Other than that, I think Dmack, did they forget something? I thought they maybe forgot.